Did you all have a good lunch? Yeah? Lots of networking, which is good to see. Oh, okay. So I'd like to hand over to our next professional institution, the IChemE, presented by Dan.
Cheers, Simon.
Cheers.
I apologise, it's probably different flavours, same talk from some of our intros, but I'm Dan Reimer. I am a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Birmingham and also a member of the IChemE. So, like some of the other groups, professional institution for chemical engineers this time, founded in 1922, so just over 100 years old. And the global home of chemical engineers, we have about 33,000 members, which I know the ICE earlier, it's about a third of the size, so we're getting there. The headquarters are in Rugby, in Warwickshire, but we do have groups all over the world, including Australia, Malaysia, and Trinidad, which is a very nice away day. And fun fact with chemical engineering, we're I think the only degree subject that has its own student sports day. So every February, all the chemical engineers in student groups get together in a different city, sport, network, interact, and enjoy themselves. And then I am also the vice chair of our early careers group. Unlike some of the groups presented earlier, we are only a national group, so we don't have the regionals, but we effectively host people, early career chem eng, that are in the first 10 years of a chem eng career. And that's students, early career industry, academics, anyone that's kind of interested in working towards chartership and developing their skills. So we cover about 5,000 members. We're one of the largest groups within the IChemE. And we primarily support people towards chartership and developing skills, but we also run socials and we attend other, IChemE early career focused events. So there is a picture in the middle there of us at Frank Morton from this year, and then things like site visits as well. So that was at Mondelez back in the summer, and then a couple of IChemE events that we've got coming up centrally that we're going to be a part of. So the first is our annual conference. So we have a conference called Chem Eng Day, which hops around the country every year. In 2026, conveniently for me, it's in Birmingham, and we do actually have a panel discussion session within that. So if you're interested, if you want to continue networking, we have an event coming up next April. And then the other thing we've got is we have our own now Young Engineers Awards. So the Young Engineers Awards for Innovation and Sustainability. I've been part of this judging for the 2 years that we've run it, so we're now taking entries for the third year, which is going to be deadline end of March, and then a showcase in Edinburgh at the kind of end of June. It's for anyone, early career chemical engineers, 18 to 30, and we've got different categories, both in terms of the level of career that you're at, so undergrads, postgrads, early careers, and also different priority topics. So in IChemE, we talk a lot about priority topics, which are a little bit of a bundling up of the UN sustainability goals. And the YEAIS is a nice segue into our speakers, because we have Lara Hill and Ben Hilton, who were the YEAIS winner this year in the quality education category, and they're going to be talking today about placements and work experience. We talked a lot this morning about sustainability on kind of the process side and some of the materials, whereas if we don't have the workforce coming through, there's no point. So Lara and Ben are going to be talking about this. They're from Sellafield, really passionate about kind of getting early careers engagement within the chemical engineering industry. So I will hand over to Ben and Lara.
Yep, so as you all now know, we're Ben and Lara, and we're going to talk about why access is sustainability and why work experience matters. So, who are we? We're a group of chemical engineers interested in inspiring the next generation of young engineers. So that's our group. We've also got Joe and Alana, who unfortunately can't be here today. We won the IChemE YEAIS Award, as Dan mentioned, and the scheme has also won an IChemE Global Award as well. So we're working towards a sustainable future by providing lifelong learning to the future generation of engineers, and our aim is to inform, inspire and influence the next generation of engineers through a novel, engaging and accessible work experience programme led by early careers.
Afternoon. So we'll talk a bit now about the scheme, how it's been developed over the past 10 years, longer maybe. So myself and Lara have only been responsible for looking after it for the past year or so. We've done our best to develop the chemical engineering bit as much as we can. And we're hoping to sort of share some of that learning so that so students in this room, as you go into your career, you can look to develop similar programmes and encourage other young people to look at careers in STEM. And for the institutes and anyone here from industry, if you're interested in developing your own schemes, or even if you have any advice for ourselves, that'd be really appreciated as well. We recognise we're not experts, but we're just trying our best to make it as effective as possible. So starting off, the scheme when it first began wasn't particularly good, it needed improvement, and some of the senior managers, so someone called Mark Duffy, who sort of ran the scheme in the early days, he went to academia, so institutes and universities, and asked them what they were looking for in terms of what would benefit students best from work experience. And what they found out was that a structured approach to work experience is key. We need sort of clear, concise joining instructions, so students at A-level, GCSE need to find it really easy to find work experience and get on it. And then it also needs to demonstrate real-life projects. There's no point getting students in to come and sit and look at what other people are doing. They need to get involved and try something for themselves. And then that leads to sort of the last important factor, which is tangible evidence. A lot of the universities are interested in seeing what students actually did during their week. So we now have work packs for our entire week that sort of students can reflect upon, they can use it in interviews, and that's been really beneficial. So the scheme, the way we've structured it, it's a 5-day work experience scheme, so 1 day of it's chemical engineering, or just over 1 day. So myself and Lara are responsible for sort of developing that over the past year. But it also goes through other engineering disciplines, so mechanical, electrical, civil. And then at the end of the week, there's like a big presentation in front of sort of senior engineers at Sellafield, where the students get to relay what they've learned, what they liked, what they found interesting. And there's a bit of Q&A at the end as well, so it's a chance for them to sort of get up and present and build that confidence throughout the week. And the aim is basically just to give a flavour of each engineering discipline. We sometimes get students who are really keen on, say, mechanical. We also have students that come in and say they don't know if engineering is for them, and they're just coming to have a look. Both of them are absolutely fantastic. That's what it's for, and we're hoping that they can find out what they want to do in the future, and hopefully, get them inspired. One thing that we think is really good about our scheme is that we have a sort of interdisciplinary task, and this links back to sort of providing real world problems. So this task goes throughout the week. It shows the interaction between each of the engineering disciplines, and it is applied to a real Sellafield problem. So it's a really basic version of some of our legacy plants and silos have radioactive sludge that needs to be removed and moved into safe storage for the long term, until sort of long-term disposal via GDF. As process engineers, we look at how can we get the sludge out of the pond, and flow rates and mass balances, and then it goes to mechanical, where we look at using 3-metre cube boxes and moving those boxes around with robotics with CE&I, and then the safe long-term storage with cranes with CS&A, which is our civil, structural and architectural. And CE&I is what we call electrical engineers at Sellafield. It's control, electrical instrumentation. A lot of acronyms in the nuclear industry, but I'm sure it's the same elsewhere. So this slide here, what we've tried to do is try to capture what we think makes the scheme successful and really beneficial. And again, this is not us, pretending to be experts in any way. But what we want to do is kind of share with you what we've learned, and equally, if you've got any questions or you've got any advice about what we could do in addition to improve the scheme, we'd be really keen to hear that. So starting off, one of the key factors we think that make it a success is that it's facilitated by young engineers and graduates and IPs. So myself and Lara have now finished the graduate scheme. Previously we were graduates and we were leading those sessions. That sort of provides a relatable perspective for the students that are coming in. They're usually year 10, year 11, college students, and the fact that we're not much older than them, we've just finished our degree or we're still at university, shows that it's something that's achievable, it's not too far in the distance or out of reach. The second key factor is that we introduce concepts at a basic level. we're not looking to sort of overwhelm the students or impress them. We just want to give them a basic understanding of each engineering discipline and sort of build that picture over time. So in chemical engineering, one of the things we do a lot is material balances and flow sheets and process and instrumentation diagrams, which can be very complicated and are complicated when we use them in industry. But we build it over time. We start off with things like getting the straw flow diagram for making a hot chocolate. And then by the end of the day, they're pretty good. They can draw engineering flow diagrams and P&IDs for real Sellafield things. So yeah, that's great to see. We try and link concepts to what they studied at A-level or GCSE. And again, that's really crucial in showing that it's not something that's too far out of reach. They've already got some knowledge and they can build on that knowledge and hopefully, go into that engineering career later down the line. We relate theories to hands-on practical activities. So we recognise that people learn in different ways, and we try and anything conceptual we teach them, we try and support that with a practical that we can do within the office as well. So yeah, that just helps consolidate that knowledge. We've got workbooks, as I said earlier, for that tangible evidence. It's something they can go forward with for interviews and demonstrate that they've learned something or done something exciting and talk passionately about it. And then last but not least, we demonstrate sort of where each engineering discipline fits in amongst the bigger picture, which I think is really crucial. A lot of the time, students don't really know what chemical engineering is, but have maybe heard about mechanical or electrical. So yeah, sort of talking about what we do and then also demonstrating where we work with other disciplines is really crucial in sort of describing that setting and making sure the students understand sort of what each discipline does and their role in that bigger picture. And then the last statement, the additional success factor, it's not really a characteristic of the scheme, but it is important in sort of encouraging students to come along to work experience. It's about that accessibility. So as a company, we're pretty good at doing STEM outreach. We have people who go out to schools in the local areas within Warrington and also up in Cumbria, and that through that students come up to the stalls, we talk about the work experience scheme, even students who aren't sure about engineering, and that gives them an opportunity to get on some work experience and try things out. And I think the two working together is kind of, yeah, the perfect setup. So I'm just going to pass back to Lara now.
So now you know who we are and what we do, we're going to explain why work experience is important in terms of sustainability. So Kit's already touched on this. Sustainability comes in three sectors. You've got environmental. Everyone's heard of the environmental sustainability. It's all over the news. It's all over social media at the minute. And you'll be being sustainable in your day-to-day lives by simple things such as recycling, taking public transport, for example. You then have economic sustainability, which supports long-term growth and financial stability without compromising the environmental, social, or future's ability to meet their own needs. So, for example, buying more durably, investing in local businesses, for example. And then finally, you've got social sustainability, which is what we'll be touching on today. If you click it again, animations that I didn't know about. So in a sentence, social sustainability is about allowing everyone to have equal opportunities in life. For example, you've got education and healthcare, and it's no matter the person's background. So you'll already be working towards social sustainability in your day-to-day lives without even realising it. So if you buy fair trade products or avoid fast fashion, this promotes ethical consumption, fair wages and safer working conditions. If you use inclusive language, just as an example, saying police officer instead of assuming policeman, it's demonstrating equality and being inclusive and respectful of different backgrounds. And then, if you volunteer, the panel this morning was speaking about the importance of volunteering. Volunteering promotes community engagement and contributes towards the long-term growth in the local area. So the work experience touches on the points raised and is essential for social sustainability. So the importance of social sustainability in engineering. So these are a few statistics that the UK are currently dealing with. So the UK is facing an engineering crisis driven by a shrinking aging workforce, particularly a loss of experience from women. There's a decline in new apprentices and graduates, and a lack of practical experience in new engineers. So vacancies for chemical engineering roles in the UK have increased by 55% over the last 5 years, and the UK needs 124,000 new engineers and technicians each year to meet demand, but current projections show an annual shortfall of engineers of up to 59,000. Chemical engineering and engineering in general is not a widely school-taught subject and isn't as accessible as other STEM areas. A shortage of engineers in the UK could lead to stalled infrastructure projects, hindered economic growth, and the UK's ability to meet its net zero targets. So this kind of links to Mark mentioning in his presentation that there's going to be more engineering roles, which is great if you've got the people to fill those roles. So that's the gap that we're trying to close with our work experience. So an example of delayed projects due to the engineering crisis that we're facing could be HS2, hospital construction, and it could cause slowdown in key factors for the UK's development, so clean energy, AI, and this impacts the UK's industrial strategy and overall competitiveness. So we're going to touch on how work experience has impacted our journeys to where we are now. So I'll go first. I think people forget how our local environments influence where we want to go in the future, how it can influence where we end up. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a nurse because my mum was a nurse. And I didn't have anyone in engineering in my family, didn't know what an engineer was, so nursing I wanted to be. Until I grew up a bit, and then I decided I like animals, so I want to be a vet. I feel like many people have wanted to be a vet, which influenced my GCSE options, so that took me down the triple science route. I actually picked business GCSE because I wanted to open my own veterinary surgeon, aiming high. And then I decided that wasn't for me, so I was a bit lost. So I went to a careers advisor at college who suggested I do engineering. I thought engineering was just fixing cars. I had absolutely no idea what an engineer was. But she explained to me that's where the money is, so I decided to look into engineering. So to do this, I did some discovery days at the University of Manchester. I did the chemistry one and the chemical engineering one, just to understand the difference, because I haven't been taught that at school. I had no idea. And I also did this work experience programme that we're talking about today as well, to just know about the different engineering disciplines that there are, to make sure I was making the right choice by pursuing the chemical engineering role. So that's how work experience has influenced my journey. So I'm not a nurse, I'm a chemical engineer now.
Yeah, so similar to Lara, she said, like, you're influenced by environment quite a lot. Fortunately, my dad's an engineer, he's an electrical engineer, my granddad was a mechanical engineer, so I kind of knew about engineering, knew what it was, but wasn't sure if it was for me yet. In school, I always liked maths and sciences, and kind of, was looking at science or engineering. And then through work experience with Emmett Foster Wheeler and NNL, they came into our college, because I'm from Warrington, so is Lara. And we have the big science park in Warrington. There's a lot of these companies on, and they reached out and offered some work experience, and I took it and met a lot of engineers from different backgrounds and had an opportunity to sort of learn about the disciplines in more detail, and then from that able to narrow it down to civil and chemical engineering. Still was unsure which one was for me. Went to loads of university open days and tried out both, and eventually made the decision that chemical engineering was for me. But had I not done those work experience programs, I was, even though I had family members who were engineers, still was unsure whether it was something I was interested in. So it just shows that it is really valuable, and it can change sort of A-level options and GCSE. So I think the timing of our work experience with we usually host them in sort of half terms for year 11s who are looking to go to college and pick their options, and first year college students who are looking to look at university courses or apprenticeships. So it comes at very crucial points in time. We've had some feedback that some students have done the work experience and they completely changed their A-level options as a result of it. And we've had college students that have done the work experience and then come back as degree apprentices, and it's been really nice to see.
So the social impact and sustainability our programmes had on the local community. So since the work experience began, we've reached approximately 650 local students. As Ben mentioned, many return to Sellafield and engineering roles, whether this be the apprenticeship route or placement and graduate route. The number of students will grow because the scheme has now expanded to Cumbria as well, so we're going to be outreaching to local students up in Cumbria. We engage with other companies and educators to set up similar schemes, so we have been approached by other engineering companies, lecturers for example, about how they can set up similar schemes in their companies, just making more opportunities for young people. We open the door to engineering for those who may not have had opportunity to explore it otherwise. So this comes into the social equality and gender equality area of social sustainability. We're providing fair access, opportunities and resources to all backgrounds of students. We're influencing students to be intrigued by engineering. It is more than just fixing a car in a garage like I thought it was. And we have engaged local communities which bring great benefit to society, providing high quality education by inspiring a diverse, passionate and skilled workforce.
I'm going to talk a bit about feedback, and that's something that we really value as part of the work experience scheme. Now there is positive feedback shown on the screen today, and that's just to demonstrate that it is effective. We do get some negative feedback as well, and we use that to continually improve the scheme. So sometimes we get things where students say that they found a task particularly difficult or boring. It's absolutely fine, that's what we want to know. We ask for anonymous feedback, and we use that to benefit the scheme and therefore make it better for future students as well. But these three statements here really highlight why we do the work experience and why it's important that, I think the majority of you here today are probably students, so going into industry it's really important for you to be involved in sort of outreach events and you can have a real impact on other students sort of earlier in their journey. Because it does make a big difference. So we've had one student say that prior to the work experience they had almost no knowledge of process engineering. However, this has opened a new option for them in the future. One said it's unleashed a desire for engineering that they didn't know they had, and it's helped them to understand a lot more about the small and big processes that contribute to a bigger cause. And then the last one says, I never knew this profession existed, but now I understand its use and it's important in an array of sectors, and that's what the work experience is all about really. It's just sharing that learning. We not only collect feedback from students, we also collect it from the early careers volunteers, because the scheme is as much for them as it is for the sort of school students that are coming in, so the graduates and IPs that run the sessions. It's an opportunity for them to develop new skills as well. Quite often early in your career you don't have an opportunity to lead and to organise stuff. Quite often just given work to be done to gain that experience and that knowledge, but this has been a great opportunity for myself and Lara and other IPs and graduates to sort of take that leadership role, practice communication skills, be responsible for a group of school students, and we want to know that it's as easy for them to run as it should be. So we ask them, what are the difficult tasks, what do you struggle with, what do the students enjoy, is there anything we could make better? We do that through Microsoft Forms, and then we sort of collate all those responses, and then year on year we're just looking to better the scheme basically. I guess that's another bit of advice. If you're looking to develop any other sort of outreach events yourself, it's really important to collect that feedback and see how you can make it better for those running the event, but also the audience that you're looking to sort of approach. So pass this back to Lara.
So this is our final slide, and it's just to get you thinking about how you can promote social sustainability. So could a similar scheme be set up in your company to what we have? Do you volunteer to provide opportunities to the local community? And Kate touched on this earlier as well, so just educate people, share what your role is, what do you study, what is an engineer, and are you a STEM ambassador? It's completely free to be a STEM ambassador, and some of the volunteering opportunities are only 15-20 minutes and it can make a real difference. Thank you.
For the next professional institution, I'd like to welcome the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers, presented by Anastasia. There's a clicker as well.
Hello everyone. Okay, great. Hello everyone. My name licensed CIBSE. I'm a graduate building services engineer at BPP, and I also volunteer at CIBSE as the social media lead. I'd like to give an introduction on CIBSE. CIBSE, as per term, is the Chartered Institution of Building Services Engineers and is the professional body that tries to advance the industry, invest in education and support its community. It's worth mentioning, since we have so many students in the audience, that if your course is CIBSE accredited, you can have a free membership and you can apply through the website. So when we think about buildings, we just think about architecture, but there's more than that. There's a plethora of disciplines that are really crucial to making a building functional: mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, lighting designers, public health, digital engineering. And these are being captured through the CIBSE societies. So you can find a space within this. There are so many volunteering opportunities through CIBSE, either being part of the committee, having a specific role, or something more general, such as being a STEM ambassador. And you can also search that through the website. These are some of the companies that our committee members are working for, and you can find yourself working in the future. At CIBSE Northwest, we really value our members and the community. So we've created this well-being fund, and we host social events and well-being events. We've done a yoga one. As you can see on the screen, we've done a paddle, golf sessions. We hosted our annual dinner previous October. And we also host monthly online CBDs, which are technical sessions that focus on professional development. You can find all of our events through our LinkedIn page and also tickets on Eventbrite, so make sure you follow us to be updated. Next week on Thursday, we have our festive quiz hosted by Stephanie Murray, and it's basically a competition between companies. So you can create your own team of a maximum 6 people, or you can come solo as well. We'll try to allocate you. So you can sign up for that. There's also a talk next on the 25th, I think, which is all about male analysis with Lee Chambers, which is really interesting. And also December, there's a Reunite Christmas event. Yeah, this is all about me. Thank you for listening. I'd like to welcome Lionel James, who's been in the industry for 40 years, being a chartered engineer and chartered manager, being the first Black African committee member, CIBSE committee member, being a CIBSE role model. So please welcome him. He came all the way from Birmingham, by the way. He's working at Arab.
Thank you very much, everyone. Before I get started, I'd just like to thank the chain committee, Ali, for reaching out to me initially, first and foremost, and to Rosa and the rest of the chain members for inviting me along today. I'm a man of faith, so I'm also going to give thanks to God for giving me this opportunity to share some of my life experiences with you and connect this up with what's been shared by all the other speakers so far today. The title of this talk is about sustainable knowledge transfer, using coaching and mentoring. I've been mentoring now for, well, I started in 2002 officially within the corporate sector, but I think I've been mentoring prior to that. Obviously, part of my career in engineering has been coaching as well. A bit more information about myself as an engineer. I started with a company called Lara Partners, and I was a 17-year-old, and before I actually took on a career in engineering, I always knew I had a background and a thought mindset to want to explore and take things apart and put them back together again. So engineering seemed to be the right direction for me to go. And before I actually started in my career, let's try and get this going first. Is this right, clicker?
Yeah. Should be. A second. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, before I actually started out in my career, I was messing about with my brother's games and taking cars apart and putting them back together. And that was giving me the direction of where I wanted to go in my career. So I started out in the Arabs many years ago. I was one of the first young engineers that were taken on in the Birmingham office. I was one of 3 who got employed. And I was a mechanical engineer, there was an electrical engineer, there was a public health engineer. At that time, I had no idea whatsoever what building services was. So I took on a role which I had no background in. So I'm sure many of you who have gone through academia, some of you, I think the majority of you here are still studying and so on and so forth. I think the majority of you are here also are still in academia and maybe trying to decide where you want to go in your careers, in your profession. What I'm going to share with you now about mentoring is a key part and a key facet that will help you on your journey. When I first experienced my first few years at Arabs, one of the things that kind of woke me up to what was happening was I was given a training officer who was going to support me in my early years. And having come out of academia, I had a certain mindset about how I would learn. And I was very much dependent on this person, this training officer, to help support me and direct me. And it didn't necessarily happen the way I thought it would, because I didn't realise the working experience isn't the same as coming out of school, college or university. And I ended up failing a couple of my units, and it meant I had to go back and restudy. That didn't hinder me in any way, but it gave me the resilience to understand that we have to change the way we learn, and we have to connect with the right people to help us and support us on that journey. One of the gentlemen who joined the company not so long after I joined was named Barry Deakin. And I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago and I said, Barry, I need to tell your story. And he says, well, why do you want to tell my story? And I said, because it's part of my story. If I didn't meet you, I wouldn't be where I am now, 40 years later. And I didn't want to tell you how long I've been in the industry, but unfortunately, Estonia gave a clue earlier, so I'm going to just drop that back in there. So I've been working within engineering just over 40 years. Started off as a mechanical engineer. I'm now an associate director in a company, an international company. I'm not going to mention their name. They employ nearly 65,000 people around the world. Barry Deakin was a very influential person in my life. I then realised, having learned from Barry Deakin, I moved on to another company, and the company was Capital Simmons, where I was asked by the director there to support and help a young lady who'd come from another country to integrate into the company and to learn the profession that she chose as an electrical engineer. I did not know her, had no prior history of her, but I was asked to mentor her. And through that experience, I realised this is something that is very, very important when you connect with the right person, with the right mindset, with the right attitude. They can take from you the things that you don't necessarily know that is indwelled in you to support them on their journey. Within 2 years of that experience of meeting her, she went on to win an award within the region, which is quite a coveted award for building service engineers. And it was the 5 Counties Award at that time. It's now called the Education Award, the Young Engineers Education Award. From then, I went on to another company, a contractor called N.G. Bailey, where a young gentleman approached me. I was in my 30s at the time. He just left school, did his A-levels, didn't want to go to university. He thought, I'm not interested in university, I want to work and build a career. He approached me and asked if I would be his mentor. I was kind of surprised. I was taken back, because I thought, I don't know you. Why are you asking me? I'm new to the company. But he was brave enough. And honestly, having had the conversations over the years, he said, I saw something in you that I didn't see anybody else in the company that I could connect with you. That made me wake up. For a 16-year-old who I had no relationship with, to approach me and say, can you mentor me? I then started to realise that mentoring is an important thing, because it wasn't something that I said to him, he came and said it to me. The gentleman named Lee Tabis, he went on to win an award, probably 5 years after our initial engagement. And this, again, was another award which catapulted him to where he is now in his career. He's a senior associate director. I'm associate director. He's a senior associate director. He won the CIBSE ASHRAE Award, which again is an international award for CIBSE within the UK. ASHRAE, or the American equivalent of the building services industry in the US. And from there, this is where I am now, on this stage, sharing a little bit about my journey. So, I have taken up positions within the institution as the chair of the West Midlands CIBSE. Plus, I've also just stepped down from being on the board of trustees for CIBSE, which is a Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers. I've got it. After 40 years, I've managed to say it in one breath. So, going on to the presentation, coaching and mentoring. Many people get coaching and mentoring entwined. They see them as the same thing, but they're not. Coaching, I think I can say safely, without no question, all of you in this room, at some point, some stage in your life, has done some level of coaching. Can I just put a question out to you? Because I don't like to talk for too long, and I can't do 20 minutes without nobody else talking. I'm going to ask you a question. Does anybody in here do mentoring? 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's about 10 of you. Is anybody in this room being mentored? Oh, wow. Okay, it's about another 10. Great stuff. So, I guess some of you then already know about coaching and mentoring. Well, I'm going to just break it down for you. Coaching, like I say, I think most of you, if not all of you, have done some level of coaching. Okay? Coaching has a very impactful and transforming impact on whoever receives it. Everybody has gone through teaching in this room. Everybody. Coaching is the next step up. When you teach someone to do something, it can be very linear in the way that it transforms them. But coaching helps them to navigate that linear level of learning. Mentoring is, again, that next stage beyond coaching. And again, I say a lot of people use the terms interchangeably. And I started to think, well, maybe it would help if people understood the power of mentoring more so than what they actually realise it is. I've realised that mentoring can have a big impact if it's shared and done in the right way. And I know we're here for an engineering talk, and engineering is a very, very important aspect of all our lives. And as you've seen in the previous presenters, they've done some major projects that transformed a lot of things in the things that they've been involved in. But looking forward, engineering is going to become so pivotal to how we transform the impact of what we're experiencing in society right now. We've got global warming, We've got issues with climate change. We've got buildings which are not performing as they were designed to. And we are the people, more so you than me, because I'm coming to the end of my tenure as an engineer. You are now taking up the baton. So what I see is an important aspect of mentoring is that those who are and have taken the steps over their careers are available to share that knowledge and pass that knowledge on to those who are coming. And we all know a lot of mistakes have been made in the past. And I'm quite gladly hold my hands up and say, I've made some mistakes. But I don't want to leave with those mistakes walking away with me. I want to share those mistakes with you and say, don't do that. Do something different. Because if you do what I did, you're just going to make the same mistake again. And that is not what we want to do. That's not what sustainability is about. We want to do something different that makes a difference to the next generation coming after us. Oops, gone too fast. Okay. So, the difference between coaching and mentoring. Coaching can be very impactful. It helps to unlock potential. You have to set the agenda, obviously, to be able to enforce the points that you're putting over. I always say that coaching can be done with those you're working directly with and also those who are outside of your line management role. But it's very different when you talk about mentoring. Mentoring needs to be done by someone independent of who you're continually working with. And I would not suggest that a line manager is the best person to mentor you, because in most situations, and I'm sure some of you are in employment at the moment, if you decided, I want to change my job role, could you safely go to your line manager and say, oh, I don't want to work with you anymore, I want to work with someone else? How do you think that would go down? Or if you want to go and work for another company, would you go and have a conversation with your line manager and say, oh, that company over there looks better to come to me, I'm going to apply for a job there. Those conversations you couldn't have with your line manager. They're very sensitive issues and they're personal to yourself. So each of you would have to find someone you could have that conversation with. And the tendency is those people aren't necessarily around. So, going back to the point of mentoring now, there's a particular number of skills that a mentor needs to have. But one of them is to learn and understand how people learn. And we all learn in different ways. I know that I'm very tactile. I like to see and touch things. And I like to practically get involved in doing things before I actually take on the learning. Other people may just be able to pick up a book and read a script and learn from it. So we all learn in different ways. And I just want to play a quick presentation. Demonstrates Kolb's learning theory. Some of you may have come across it, some of you may not. But it does highlight some of the things that we in academia fall foul of when we come through the academic situations. We can get into the mindset of, if I just do this, I've learned it, and you do it once, but that doesn't mean you've learned it, it just means that you've picked up that information for a short window of time. I'll just wait for the presentation.
David calls the cycle of experiential learning. To do that, we first have to review some of the most influential learning theories. At the start of the 20th century, behaviorism suggested that learning is about acquiring visible, external behaviors through receiving stimuli. In the reaction, cognitivism emerged, stating that learning is the internal processing of information. Later, the constructivist approach argued that learning happens when individuals construct their own knowledge in interaction with their environment. These approaches were, in a lot of ways, total opposites. supporting the one meant to reject the other. But then along came David Cole, who, based on the works of Kurt Lewin, John Dewey, and Jean Piaget, claimed learning is a combination of the above. One balanced, holistic process of constantly creating knowledge through transforming experience, including behavior, cognitive processes, personal and environmental factors. Now let's break that down, shall we? Where some people see learning as a straight line from not knowing to knowing, Cole defines learning as a never-ending process. Our ideas, our knowledge, they are not fixed. We constantly experience things that defy our view of the world. We constantly learn, unlearn, and adapt to those personal experiences. As such, learning is a constant conflict between what we expect and what we experience. This conflict can be split up into 4 key stages.
Okay, I'll just stop this presentation here. I'm just going to ask you a quick question. The second question I want to ask is, how many of you here, when you finished your academic studies, if you've already finished, believe that you were equipped to go into the working industry? Can I have a show of hands, please? Nobody? Okay, interesting. So, why don't you think you were equipped? If many of you have gone to university, studied for your degree, studied for your master's, studied for your doctorate, those are very high qualifications. So, when you go into the workplace, you still don't think you're equipped to do what you've been setting out on your journey to do. What's that?
I think I'm agreed with you. Asked the question, right? If we don't know how to studies, right, then we think that we're going to the right? I think I'm agreed. I think because of that prior experience or work experience or learning a lot of things as work currently doing master's program. So I think
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So, can I just say, the gentleman just said he thinks that he's equipped, but the key thing is, he said he's had prior work experience before he did his studies. So there's something that you've learned before you studied, which has equipped you. Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just mainly the sheer range of people that you work with in any professional role in industry. Like obviously in an academic setting, yeah, you still work in groups, but usually it's of your peers or your mates. When you go into an actual working professional environment, you're working with all kinds of people, different backgrounds, different ages, different experiences, different disciplines, and moreover, just the difference in different personalities and characters that you just may not be used to. But you all have to work together to deliver goals, even though you may not like the people on your team. That's just what you have to do.
Excellent.
That is a huge learning curve for me.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And you made a couple of good points there, which are going to come up in the presentation as I go forward. But yes, the key thing is, when you're in the work environment, you come across a lot of different people. And the intention is, because you are connecting with those people, you learn a lot more. And you can also transfer some of your learning into the other people around you. So the key part I'm trying to share is, the key is that you learn when you're in the workplace, not when you're going through academia. Play this next presentation for me, please.
Have you ever been interested in becoming more productive or managing your time better? Then you've most likely come across the Pareto principle before. also known as the 80-20 rule. If you've never heard of it, then you'll learn more about it in this video. The Pareto principle states that in any situation, 20% of the inputs or activities are responsible for 80% of the outputs or results. And I'll explain what that means in a second. The principle was named after an Italian economist, Wilfredo Pareto. He first observed this law in his own garden. What he noticed was that 20% of the pea pods generated 80% of the healthy peas. This observation led him to discover that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by just 20% of the population. And we can see this concept everywhere in our daily lives. For example, you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. In a book, 20% of its pages contain 80% of the mode.
We'll just move that presentation on a bit further. So, what the point is here is that 20% of the time that you have allocated to you actually achieves 80% of where you're going to go. So the point is, focus on the 20%. The most important aspects will get you a greater reward. So
you can even do a Pareto analysis on your friendships. What you're most likely to find is that 20% of the friends give you 80% of fulfillment and joy that you get from social interactions. The other 80% of your so-called friends are only giving you 20% fulfillment. Now, you don't have to cut away all those friendships completely, but you don't have to spend an equal amount of time with all your companions. It's much better to have a few close friends than to have a bunch of really distant friends. This is why you should spend more time on the 20% that give you the most.
So, the key point I'm trying to make here is relating to mentoring. If you connect with the right people, the people that you can see and recognize have walked a journey before you, and you have aspirations to walk that journey, the impact that can have over a period of time with that individual can be greater than if you spend a lot of time talking to multiple people. This table clearly shows that there are 3 stages in our learning. The first is structured learning, which is what you experience when you're in academia. All structured, all laid out. 10% of that can be rewarding. The next stage, which a lot of people tend to miss out, and I know our guest speakers who spoke earlier mentioned this as well, 20% of that second stage of learning includes mentoring, coaching, receiving feedback on things that you do. That is a bridge that can accelerate your progress in your career and your professions. And then obviously, the 70%, which covers work experience, etc. So moving forward, mentoring has an impact on each and every one of us if we go through the right stages of mentoring. Like I say, I've been mentoring for a number of years and I can see the results. So for those of you who have an interest in mentoring, I would suggest put yourselves forward for that. Those of you who aren't and want to be mentored, also put yourselves forward. There are people in this room, in this talk today, who can offer you some guidance. And again, another thing that's important about mentoring is giving feedback and also receiving feedback. A mentor has to do this as part of their development in terms of building themselves up and also esteeming those that they're supporting. And I know we're all here talking about sustainability. To keep our generation and the next generation on the track that they are in their careers, and specifically in engineering, we need to have people who are willing to support and share their knowledge and look to serve others. The point I'm trying to share on this slide, things highlighted in green, are the differences between what you achieve through mentoring and the other points which are covered by coaching. Personal fulfillment is one of the key things. I've found over the last 30 or so years of mentoring, I've achieved so much, even though it's not financially rewarding, and I've seen success from those I've supported in mentoring. This slide just shows you the differences between coaching, mentoring, training, and counselling. They're all very different in their approach, and they all apply in different ways. The one thing to look at is the time orientation. Mentoring and coaching cover a period of time which is between short to medium for coaching, medium to long term for mentoring. Mentoring is a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. This is a quote which I received from a CEO of an institution in America called Admired Leadership. And we were having a conversation over the phone, and I asked him about providing me these thoughts on mentoring and coaching, because I knew I was going to come and do this presentation. And this is what he said back to me. And he clearly states that there is a difference between coaching and mentoring. Mentoring is a broader and a long-term impact. It's about sharing wisdom, perspective, and institutional knowledge to help someone navigate their career and their professional development. For those of you here, and I'm glad to see you all here, you're on a journey. The journey is down to you, but it's about you choosing how you walk on that journey. Are you going to walk it alone, or are you going to find someone to walk with you? Because we have got a big task ahead of us in terms of engineering for the future. These are some of the institutions that are in this room, and there's some additional ones as well on the list. Most of them have mentoring schemes. I was involved in the CIBSE mentoring scheme back in 2012. I was part of the steering group, and also I was involved in the mentoring scheme for the Chartered Institute of Management. So I would all recommend each of you, no matter what institution you're with, to reach out to those in the mentoring sector and have a conversation, because I can guarantee you it will help you on your journey as you navigate your world in engineering. Thank you very much.